Tomorrow. What time is the early Shabbos?
6:15, 6:20. So that
It's not such a long daf tomorrow. And part of it is a repeat of tonight's. So the part of tonight's that we're not going to understand will also be tomorrow not understanding. I mean, hopefully we will understand it. But 6:15 you said is the early Shabbos.
You want to do 5:30?
5:30, yeah, 5:30.
And matzah?
Matzah is what is it? Late already, right? So the Shkia 72 is 9:32, right?
Still go crazy, yeah.
All right, so quarter two.
When are you going to the country, by the way?
Whenever camp opens.
June 22nd.
I guess that's when I'm going.
Yeah, you're not going before.
Very early this year.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so tonight the first Amud of tonight's stuff is very gishmak. A lot of tyrus, but easy, but stuff that's nageya. And then the second part goes back to B'fanei Nechtam. We got another couple of blood of B'fanei Nechtam, which combinations of edus could be accepted or not accepted. And then we go on to the next part of the Masechta. Okay, so because yesterday we were discussing tzirufim, like combining edus, so then the Gemara goes through all sorts of scenarios about combinations. So yesterday we ended off with that a mechitza. We had a machlokes whether a mechitza combines with like a hill, a natural partition, combines with a fence in order to make a mechitza on Shabbos. So we said lamaisa they do combine. Then boy ilfa had a shayla. Yadayim taharis l'chatzayim. Can you have hands that become tar in half? Or they cannot become tahar in halves. Okay, that's it's a little bit of a cryptic question. He says, can you be matar hands in halves, like piecemeal? So Gemara goes through a few options. What exactly Ilfa was asking? What's the case? This is why I texted this yesterday on the halacha text, right? If you say that two people can wash with the same revius, and that was a shaila, that can't be. As long as you have a revius of water, you can wash two people's hands. You can wash one person's hands with it. You can even wash two people's hands with it. So in the Mishnah Brura, or the Shulchan Aruch, brings two examples of what this means, because we paskin like this, right? So if you don't have enough water and two people want to wash their hands, so basically they put their hands under each other, and you pour one water, and then the revius gets on the top guy's hands, and then it gets on the bottom guy's hands.
Did anybody try this? 3.2 ounces.
Yeah. Yeah, so it's an exact revius. It's probably, you still need to make sure that the water gets all over the guy's hands.
What are you doing this kiddush yadayim for what purpose is this?
Challah.
If it's for challah, right? If it's for
challah, bread.
If it's for bread or matzah,
yeah.
Right? So
pizza, yeah.
Because that's chachamim to kahanim. That's
right.
That's right. So if that's the case, and the water is really not. You can take the water and reuse it 20 times.
No, but
because water doesn't.
So 1 second.
It's a haga. So then the water doesn't.
Okay, so you reuse water
20 times.
That's the other pshat in the Mishnah Brura. One pshat is that you're washing it once and it goes on both sets of hands. The other pshat is that you take the water and wash one guy's hands, then you take the dirty water and wash the other guy's hands. Yeah, that's exactly what the other pshat in this is. Yeah.
I did that in Hawaii, and I blew away the kabadniks. I took the water that they used for washing, and I picked it up from there instead of waiting for it to come out of the tap where it's the dripping. So I used that water and I washed. I think, you can't do that. Okay. Anyway, yes, yeah, that's okay.
Yeah, so it can't be that was the pshat. Because that's Pasha the Mishnah that works. Okay. So what it's saying that he washed each hand by itself. Yeah. So the Gemara says that's also if somebody washes one hand, right? And one hand by putting it in a stream, meaning because it's washing it away, right? So where's the view? So Yadav Taharas, his hands are Tahar, right? So meaning you don't have to wash. You see, the Mishnah says you don't have to wash the hands, both hands in the same way. Okay, so it can't be that either. The Ella, the Kamashi Palga Dide. He washed half of each hand, right? Meaning he washed half of his hand, then he washes the other half of his hand. We said that they don't become tar in halves. So you have to wash the entire hand. So what exactly is Ilfa Shaila? So when it says what it's talking about in the last case where he washed part of the hand, but he left it moist, but not so moist, just slightly wet. And then he washed the other half of the hand. So let's say he washed up to his knuckles, which is a machlokes unto itself, whether you need to wash more than that. Let's say he washed up to his knuckles, then he dried it, but he left it slightly wet, not wet enough to make something else wet, just slightly wet. Then he washed the back part of his hand, let's say the palm part of his hand. Then that he's saying that was his shaila. But that was ilfa shaila if you do that. So we're asked, and if there's mashke tefeach, my havi, what is that going to do? But now we learned in the Mishnah, now we start today's daf. Hanitzuk vakatafris. So nitzuk, like we learned, we had that in Saita. Nitzuk is when you pour something. Vakatafris is like when water runs off a mountain, a steep mountain. Umashke tefeach and mashka, which is liquid that's wet, but not too wet. It's not wet to make anything else wet, just slightly moist. Any chibur, it will not attach loyla tumah v'loyla tara. It's not going to be connecting. It's not. These things are not going to connect. Not for tumah, not for tara. So meaning for tumah, it's pashut, right? You're washing your hands negovasa, right? And that means your hands are tamei, and what's in the cup is tahar, right? So how come there's no attachment? The tamei water, the water on your hands is tamei, and it connects up to the water in the cup. So say it's not considered. Any of these things are not considered an attachment, and it's not for tahara either. Meaning, basically, we have two mikvahs, right? Each one has less than 40 sa, and you want to connect it with any one of these things, it doesn't connect. So you see that stam moist, stam wet, that's not too wet, doesn't make a connection. So how could it be that if this guy washes his hands and then dries half of it most of the way, that it's going to work? So my answer is like no. So it's more than just wet. It's wet enough to make something else wet. So if that's the case. So then that was ilfa shaila. Again, a guy washes half his hand, leaves it wet enough leaves it wet enough to make something else wet, and then he washes the other half of his hand. So the ilfa shaila was, does that netilas yadayim work or not? So I'm going to ask. So nami tinino, we also taught that, right? Tefeach latfiach chibur, right? If something that's wet enough to make something else wet is considered an attachment, right? So we see that we do know that, yeah.
If I could wash myself with 3.2 ounces, isn't that baltashkus?
See, that's the thing. It says you're supposed to use a lot of water.
And so why isn't it baltashkus? I don't understand.
What do you say?
Don't they bring that into segula fashiris?
Knock down a tree, I cut down a fruit tree. That's baltashus. That's the derisa of baltashus. I cut down a fruit tree.
Okay, so
it's not baltashus derisa, but I don't know. You're supposed to pour a lot.
Yeah, but don't they say that it's a segula fashiris?
You're talking about a school.
Yes.
I'm talking about an issa derisa.
Water, yeah.
So we're not talking about the same thing.
but the assumption is
Let's
that
say a
there's a-
schooler is an Issa Deraisa. You do the school or you do what you don't do the Issa Deraisa.
I don't know. I can't. This you got to ask the rabbi.
Coolers come first.
I don't know if it's considered baltashlis if there's no shortage of water. I would think.
There's always a shortage of water. Eretz Yisrael, it has a shortage of water since Eretz Yisrael was discovered. It has
So
a
I
shortage
guess
of water.
I guess it's good we're learning Talmud Bavli. No, I don't know. I don't know. I never and spilling over the wine by Havdalah. What about that?
Okay, so you want so good. So you could ask that. I didn't ask that.
Hanami, touche. I don't know. I don't know whether-
Maybe we drink that after we spill it.
some people probably do.
That's a schooler. Dip their fingers into it. I don't understand. Ravan, you don't mess with schoolers with panasa. You dip your
I
fingers
ain't
into your
drinking
pants.
Not
That's
tell
more
you, I ain't
important than
drinking
their
it.
ISIS.
I ain't drinking it after you put your fingers in it.
Yaakov,
Yes.
the hand that's moist that can wash the other hand, is that the basis for people that take like a mashehu from Ayam Achronim? Just tip it over a little bit and then they rub their hands together and just for Ayam Achronim, just to get their hands wet.
Is that is that the reason?
I don't know.
I don't
I'm
know.
asking you. I'm saying like the only scenario I've seen where people take like a little bit of water and then rub their hands together, and now my hands are clean, is when it comes to
My
Ayam
Achronim.
Achronim.
Yeah.
Avi, I never heard of it anywhere, saw it anywhere else. That makes so much sense.
Is that the pshat? I thought they're just doing it to be yaitza to take away guilt.
Yeah.
That's what I always thought.
Yeah, but how are people being guilty doing it like that? Where else do you get it from?
Well, the chiyuv of my machrayim is because of the machlokes, just in case it goes in your eyes. We don't really use saltpeter in food anymore.
That's true, but
So it's a
Right, but
zecher
we
to the
don't-
mitzvah, my machrayim. So for a
Oh, it's
zecher,
just a
you put little bit
zecher
of
to the
water.
mitzvah, that's all? So we're not
well,
really
that's what
doing
people
it.
they
say
hold.
nowadays because we don't
Right.
have the salt. We don't have the salt. Yeah.
Where did you get, like, Gershon, where did you get that it's saltpeter that we use? Saltpeter is how you make gunpowder. You know? Where'd you get saltpeter? Just because it's
Also
called
used to be
saltpeter doesn't
used in
mean
a lot of
it's like
foods.
Sodomies, you know?
It also used to be used in a lot of foods, and someone I respect greatly did a lot of research to Malchstein.
Oh yeah.
And they came up with a saltpeter.
Essentially saltpeter, yeah.
Yeah, it's from one of those Rishonim that we saw in
Okay.
those books.
Whatever it is, I don't know. I don't know.
Today, the modern equivalent is pink salt number 2, where it's dangerous. If it's,
Himalayan salt.
well, it's pink salt. It's similar to that, yeah.
I hear.
Right,
Okay.
Barrett?
Maybe it's
They
Epsom
make
salt.
it pink to keep it safe.
I hear. Okay, whatever it is, it could be that would suffice as my machronim. Okay, either way, so the Gemara is saying, the Gemara is asking, but we know that tefeach latfiach is a chiva. That's considered regular liquid. So Gemara answers, Dilma le'inyan mikvois. Maybe it has to do with mikvois. Rabbi Yehuda, it's going according to Rabbi Yehuda. The Tanan, mikvah sheyesh barabam so michuvenes. Let's say you have a mikvah that had exactly 40 saw. So the first guy goes in it and comes out. He's pulling out some of the water with the mikvah. So now your mikvah is less than mem saw. V'yordu shnayim v'tavlu. 2 guys went and toveled. Right? So shneim b'vasachas, when the parentheses, we'll just read it. There's no issur in reading parentheses, by the way. Shneim b'vasachas tahirim. Right? If they both went in at the same exact time, they're tar. But what about zeh zeh? So you'd think the first guy is obviously good. What's with the second guy? There was no 40 saw. So zeh zeh rishon tar v'sheni tamei. But Rabbi Yehuda has a different view on this. If the feet of the first guy was touching the water still, meaning, they were, that's those type of mikvahs that have, like in Yerushalayim, they have an entrance in and a separate entrance out. Right? You don't have to go back up.
They did tag teams.
Right. So whatever the scenario is, but the first guy's feet are still in the mikvah. So now what we say is then afasheni is tar, even the second one's tar. So machlokes Rashi tells us why it's tar. Rashi says we say good achis. We say that the water that's all on the man's body that went into the mikvah first, we look at it like it goes all the way down and is touching the mikvah. Right? Tosfos says it's more like a chibur. Okay, whatever it is, but maybe that was the shaila. Then the shaila that he was asking is maybe the shaila that Ilfa was asking about half and half. Maybe it's if it's so wet, so that we say that it's enough to connect and make the both washings into one. So that's what we say was Ilfa's shaila, and the Gemara doesn't really answer the shaila, right? Okay, that's one. Fine. Amar of Yirmiyah, Hare Amru, Haba Roishiv Ruba b'mayim shuvin. If somebody takes a shower, that's all it is. Not even a full body shower. Roishiv Ruba b'mayim shuvin, in water that's drawn, meaning as opposed to water from natural springs or rainwater. Vitar, or somebody who's tar shenafla roishiv aruba shloisha lugin mayim shuvin, that fell on his head and most of his body 3 mayim shuvin, 3 lug of mayim shuvin, so then he becomes tamei. Right? Now these are the 2 of the gezeros from the Yud Ches gezeros in the beginning of Masechta Shabbos, which basically was, as it all came from that their mikvahs back then were obviously not clean. Right? And Memela, they took showers after they went to the mikvah. So the Chachamim were afraid that if they're going to take a shower after the mikvah, they're going to think that the shower was what makes them tahar. So the Chachamim said, okay, so anybody who takes a shower after mikvah, they go back to being tamei. Then in addition to that, stam, anybody that took a shower, they said became tamei because you can't have one without the other. Right? So that's the din. Meaning, because otherwise, if you don't aser anybody that takes a shower, so then at what point are you going to say that after the mikvah the shower becomes good? We'll get back to the practical that in a minute. But anyways, so bottom line is after the mikvah you're not allowed to take a shower. That was the gezerah. Fine.
That's the Avnei that's the Avnei Nez on the matzahs. That's Svara. That's the Avnei Nez on the matzahs.
What do you mean? The Tanai?
Yeah. For how long? For 15 minutes, 20 minutes, an hour, 14 hours? Well, there's a time limit.
Well, okay, yeah, well, yeah, so okay.
Otherwise, you can't have a coffee the next morning. How do you have a coffee the next morning?
Right, I mean, where does it end? So really, it ends after this man of the Issa.
Well,
right?
that's
yeah. Okay, so anyway, so that's the Gemara's din. So what's the Gemara's shaila? Let's say half of the person's body went into a mikvah. The chetzei b'nefila, and the other was poured on him. So the part that went to the mikvah is not a problem. They didn't make this gezerah if you went into the water, meaning if you took a bath after the mikvah, they didn't make the gezerah. They only made a gezerah if you showered after the mikvah. So you took the bath. So now here you did half and half. So what's the din? So Gemara says teiku, right? So Gemara leaves it off. Now this din does not apply to men's mikvah. Get this question fairly often. That can a man if the man goes to mikvah Friday, Yom Tiv, can he take a shower after mikvah? Yes, even Yom Kippur, Erev Yom Kippur, he could.
But also not to take a shower in the mikvah right after mikvah.
Go home
and take a shower.
No,
for this reason, it looks like that's
but you're a man, you could do it.
That looks like it's.
Where are you making this up from?
My father.
That he said he shouldn't take it there on a regular Friday?
Yeah, go home and take it, not right away.
That's what he said?
Yeah.
I don't buy that. Okay.
He said because it looks like that water.
Told everyone.
The second water is what's retired.
He took a shower before the mikvah was covered the brius, and he took a shower after the mikvah because some people don't have covered the brius.
But he did it in the mikvah or he did it at home?
In the mikvah.
There you go. Okay, so I don't know what Naftali's saying. Could be, but the bottom line is it doesn't apply to men, but it does apply to women. It does apply to women. Women are not allowed to take a shower after they go to the mikvah.
Naftali, there's a school to take a shower after. If you're going to a business meeting, it's a school for parnassas. Take a shower before the business meeting.
I heard what Naftali said. I also heard.
I don't know. I don't hear it. I don't hear it.
Because you're
No,
showing,
the
the reason
I
it was given to you
heard
was you're
it.
showing that the shower is what's retired.
Okay, but that's the case in the Gemara.
Right,
That's not it's no chiddush,
Okay,
but it doesn't apply to men's mikvah. It's a joke.
But by the ladies, it passes it up.
It won't passel it up, but they're not allowed to.
Rabbi, don't confuse us with the facts. Come on.
There you go. There you go. So Ramosha actually in the tshuva says, this is wild. This is one of these things that one of the things that Ramosha says in the tshuva, and nobody listens. He says that a woman can't take a shower after mikvah for 24 hours, if I remember correct.
Wow.
But I never heard of anybody keeping that. But a lot of times the women ask, because the mikvah smells like chlorine. So the psak, Shevet HaLevi says this is that as long as they come home and they touch their husband, so they show that they're already tar, then they could already take a shower. That's the psak. That's the accepted psak. Right? That's what you do. Okay. Next, Amar Papa. Hare Amru, Baal Keri, Chayla. So a Baal Keri is a man who has any sort of a mission. Right, so he's a Baal Keri Chayla, Shenosol of Tisha Kavamayim, and they put Tisha Kavim on him, then he's tar. So the background to this is that it used to be that Ezra was Masakin, that anytime somebody has relations, he has to go to the Mikva. Right, before they could learn Torah. You don't have to go to the Mikva. If you're not learning Torah and you're just going to work or whatever, you're not learning any sort of Torah, then you wouldn't need it. Well, davening, right? Well, davening is. Davening is not as, it's whatever. It's not as pashut as Torah, I think, right? So, but then they took it back. They took it back because it was getting too difficult. So, but then there's this Tisha Kavim. Tisha Kavim is basically what we say is a shower. It's according to the Chazon Ish, have to be a shower of about 21, 22 liters, they say. And according to the Grachna, it's about half of that. All right, so we say that even though Ba'atzim Tisha Kavim is just pouring water, buckets of water, so really the way to do it is you can have up to 3 buckets of water and it shouldn't be a separation between the pouring of each bucket. That's the real way to do it. The bottom line is that they were makel that you could do, somebody who's a chayla, couldn't get to a mikvah, so he could do Tisha Kavim. Right, so tar is tar. So Bayra Papa Chetzi B'Tfila B'Chetzi B'Nesina. What happens if the Baal Keri goes half in the mikvah, right, and half he puts Tisha Kavim on him? So is that enough, or do you either have to go into the mikvah or have Tisha Kavim? So Teiko. So we say it's Teiko. Fine. That's the end of the tumah and Tahara part of the daf.
What's the shaila if the guy is in the mikvah, which is the raisa, and the other Tisha Kavim, which is the rabbanon? So why shouldn't it be good?
What do you mean?
What's the take of the last case?
No, you're not doing a full Tisha Kavim. You're doing half and half. It's not a deraisa. The steel is not deraisa.
No, I'm saying what's the problem on the last case? Chetzav b'biyah, chetzav v'tfila, chetzav b'nesina.
I'm not sure what you're asking.
What is the case? He has half his body of his waist is in a mikvah, and
Correct.
they put Tisha Kavim on top on his chest, right?
Yeah.
On his chest. So what's the problem? Why is it why is it a shaila?
Because you're not doing either one. This one thing is tefillah and one thing is Tisha Kavim.
You're doing Tisha Kavim for sure.
No, you're not. You're doing
half of each.
What do you mean half? Your body's in the water. I don't understand.
Half your body's in the water and half you're having water poured over it.
So that's for the bottom half is for sure good. Right? The problem is the top half?
What, Zev? If you go to mikveh and you go half of you in the mikveh, is that half tahir?
It's not. It's better than the Tisha.
No, it's not. It's no different. You didn't do anything. Mikveh only works when you're completely in the mikveh. You have to be completely immersed.
You have to be completely immersed.
Yeah.
So this,
Either
you
one or
have
the
two
other.
halves, which either one is nothing. The question is, does nothing plus nothing equal one?
Okay.
That's what. Yeah, I mean, you're doing. It's interesting because you think, what's the Teiku? I mean, such a shvera shaila. That's what Zev is bothered by. I think
It
it
should be
doesn't seem
pashut
like
that
the
it
most
doesn't
shvera
work.
shaila in the world that it gets a Teiku. What?
It should be pashut that it does not work.
I would think it should work. A half a Tisha Kavim.
I would think it shouldn't.
I don't know.
Why?
Okay, I guess that's why it's a Teiku.
Because half is nothing. So if you have two nothings, it equals a whole somehow.
Well, when
Half
is
of
it?
either
When
one.
is it not? When is it nothing?
It's
you only
always
do
nothing.
half of the body in Tisha Kavin, does that do anything to that half of the body?
For how long does it? Maybe he's going into the mikveh very slow.
But
A
he's
woman,
not.
a woman has to be fully immersed to be kosher, right? So then
Yes.
that would answer the question right there. That if
No,
you have
Tisha
to,
Kavin wouldn't work for a
No,
woman.
we're
We're
not
not talking
that.
about a
doesn't
woman.
work.
We're not talking about a woman.
It's not talking
Anybody
about-
leave their hand out of the mikvah, are they kosher? No. They have to be fully immersed.
right.
Yeah, but
They
this
only
is a
have to be
different-
fully. They only have to be fully immersed because they're not immersed if they're not fully immersed. But if Tisha Kavim has the same din as Mikva, so then they're fully immersed. Half is Tisha Kavim and half is fully immersed. So it's one.
So
maybe it shouldn't be Tisha Kavim. Maybe it should only be 4.5.
Tisha Kavim is the equivalent.
So good. Okay, good.
Tisha Kavim is the equivalent of a mikvah.
Teku.
No, it's not. Tisha Kavin is never the equivalent of a mikveh. It's a b'diavad to start.
Right.
The takana is that it works. It's a takana that it works. It's not a
Okay, so
mikveh.
but it works. It doesn't matter why it works.
But it's not a mikveh. L'kuli
Okay,
alma,
so it's not a
mikveh.
mikvah. No, so it's not a mikvah.
But it should be tired.
So
Your
you have two
grandmother's
different.
not a hockey player, so what? What does that have to do with anything? So it's not a mikvah,
Oh,
but it works.
it's an
feeling.
Italian saying. If my
It
grandmother
works.
had wheels, she
It
would have been a
works,
bicycle.
but it works. Yeah. Who cares? Who cares if it's
Oh,
a
boy.
mikvah or not?
Yeah, I don't know if it works on Tisha Kavim. Okay, I see already why it's a Teiku. I'm a Chavin.
Listen, the fact that Rabaran and his son-in-law are agreeing on something is worth it.
Maybe
Parrots,
Eliyahu.
it gives you something to strive for. Parrots, it gives you something to strive for.
Yeah. Okay. Anyways, weiter. So now back to the fun is over. Now back to
he
the
wants
fun
to
and
agree
the
with the
fun and
son-in-law or argue with the son-in-law?
So so we said that the Mishnah went through a bunch of scenarios where most of them were no good. Where one aide says b'fanai nechtav, one person, one shliach, I guess, says b'fanai. What we're going to see in the Gemara. One says b'fanai nechtav and one says b'fanai nechtam. Right. So we said it's no good. The get is no good, even though the ksiva of the get was confirmed and the chasim of the get was confirmed, but it's no good. That's only if these two guys, meaning the guy that's saying that he saw the get written and the guy that's saying he saw the get signed, were not official shluchim, right? But if they were both official shluchim, then kosher on Talmud Beis. Now it's kosher, right? Because then they both have the kula of the Rabbanon that they can confirm a get. So Kasavar, what's a pshat? Shnayim, because he held Shnayim you get Medina Sayam. We had this in yesterday's daf. We'll have it tomorrow. I think tomorrow. Yeah, tomorrow. Shnayim you get Medina Sayam. Two people that bring a get from Medina Sayam. Ain't tzrichin sheyayim b'fanenu nechtam. They don't have to say b'fanenu nechtam because they are kosher edim unto themselves. Right, so since they don't have to say it, so if one says b'fanai nechtam and the other one says b'fanai nechtam, it's not a problem, right? Because again, they're not mechuyev to. Yeah. Okay. So then Amar le Abaya, if that's the case, let me out the sefer the Getani. What about the sefer? So Shnayim Amar b'fanenu nechtam. Two guys say it was written in front of us. So now there's three edim here. Two say that the get was written in front of them, and one says it was sealed. Puzzle, it's possible. Rabbi Yehuda Masher, Rabbi Yehuda says it's kosher. Time of day in haget yoytzu mitachas yidei shneim. The reason is because the get is not they both were not shluchim of the get. Haget yoytzu mitachas yidei shneim. It's mashma. If both of them were official shluchim, then mashir the rabbanon. The rabbanon would even say it's kosher, right? Meaning, we're basically saying that the machlokes of Rav Yochanan, Lefi Rav Yochanan's pshat, the machlokes of yehuda and the rabbanon is when there's three witnesses, right? Two on the ksiva, one on the chesima, right? And that's when none of them were shluchim. But if two of them were shluchim, then the rabbanon would say that it's a good get, right? Because we go with, because what did Rav Shmuel say? He said that two Eidim don't need to say b'fanei nechta b'fanei nechta. So he said that, so that would be in the sefer. There would also be a machlokes on Malays. He said to him, yes, that's true. Fine. And he asked, so if that's the case, so if neither one of them it brings the get, right? I'm sorry, not neither one of them. One of them only brings the get, not both. So, but my pligi. So, what's the machlokes, right? Meaning, why should if only one is the shliach and he only says either b'fanei nechtav or b'fanei nechtam, so then what's the machlokes? So, our answer is mar sovar. The rabbanon hold because rinan dilma asi lechlufe bekim shtaris ta'am. We're afraid that if you're going to allow this get to go, then people are going to say, "Oh, you remember that get? One guy confirmed it, so therefore other stars we could do the same thing." I'm sorry, I stopped too early. Asi lachlu bekim stars the ama beid echad. Right? They're gonna come to switch with the kim stars of eid echad. The other one says we don't make the gzeira. Fine. So that's the way, according to this version of the Gemara, their machlokes is whether we're afraid between the Rabbanon and Reb Yehuda is really not about whether the get is kosher or not. Sounds like they both say it's kosher. The question is, are we afraid that if we're going to allow this type of get with two eidim and one eid, three eidim, and everything's flying all over the place, if we're going to allow that, then you might end up doing that for regular star too. Okay, that's one way of learning the Gemara. Lishna achrina, another pshat. Amri law, right? There was Lishna achrina amri law. There was another pshat. Amar Rav Shmuel bar Yehuda, Amar Rav Yochanan, afilu get yotz b'tavos yidei shnei puzzle. Right, the first version of this was Rav Shmuel bar Yehuda said that if both of these guys are shluchim, then the get is okay. And this version says the opposite. Even if both of these guys, meaning the one guy that said b'fanei nechtam and the other guy said b'fanei nechtam, even if they're shluchim, it's still possible. Okay, alma kasavar shnayim sheviu get medina sayam. So you see from this that two people that bring a get from medina sayam tzrichin sheyam b'fanei nechtam b'fanei nechtam. They both have to say b'fanei nechtam b'fanei nechtam, and since they don't, they both since they didn't say it on the entire thing, both of them didn't say it on the entire thing, therefore it's no good. Basically, the rule is that if you hold that two people that bring a get from Medina Sayyam have to say b'fanei nechtam, then if one of them only says b'fanei nechtam and the other one says b'fanei nechtam, then it's no good. Meaning they're sort of opposites of each other. If you hold that both have to say b'fanei nechtam, then they both have to do it. And it gets puzzle if they don't. If you hold that they don't have to, then the get is going to be kosher.
It seems from the Lashon, they both have to say it exactly because it doesn't say b'fanei nechtam. The Gemara says b'fneinu nechtam. B'fneinu nechtam.
Yeah, they would, right, exactly. They both have to say.
It can't be one after the other. They have to, in order to say b'fneinu, they have to be together.
Oh, you mean they have to say that as a choir? You're saying? Is that what you're saying?
I don't know a choir exactly, but they have to be saying it in first person plural. Because if they knew, is the same in front of us. You can't say in front of us if you're one person. You know,
right.
I think. I mean,
it's the royal us.
What did you just say?
If I'm talking to someone and they
King
say, my
Charles
wife
says,
and I went somewhere,
bring us a glass of water. He's just talking about himself.
Oh, I want to say he's using that such a lashon. But the Gemara changed it all along. It's the same bifanai, even here it says bifneinu, you know.
As long as the person you were talking to knows who you were talking about, Fanenu works. It was written in front of us.
I hear. Yeah, okay, but
All right.
yeah. Okay, so let's see. Bye. So Amalei have now the same shak of the Tahara, but backwards. So Amalei Abaya, Elamayata, which the way I understood the first way, maybe backwards will help me understand it. Okay, but Amalei Abaya, Elamayata, Seifa, so in the Seifa, the Gatani Shnaim, I'm B'Fnenu Neftav. Two guys say it was written in front of us. And one says it was sealed in front of me. Puzzle, it's puzzle. Yehuda Masha, Yehuda says it's kosher. People get even if the get goes out from both of them. Pasli Rabbanon. The Rabbanon are going to say it's puzzle, meaning even if the get, even both of them say they're shluchim, it doesn't go because they both have to say b'fanai nechtav u'b'fanai nechtav. Amalei in. She said, yes, that's true. Okay, so what's the machlokes? So Marsa L'Fishain B'Kiyin L'Shma. You see, now here's the only difference here. One says the reason why they need to say b'fanai nechtav is because the people in Chutz La'aretz don't know anything. I'm sorry, there has to be, they don't know anything, so they don't know that the get has to be L'Shma, right? Which is like Rabbah. Umar Sover L'Fishain Eidim Mitzuyin L'Kaima. And the other one goes like Rava, who says, no, the reason why you need the get is because there's no Eidim there's not usually Eidim traveling. But here you have two Eidim here, right? The Shluchim are two. So therefore, that would be okay because they're here, right? Fine. Okay, so then what it says, so now basically what you're saying is that the Tanakama and Reb Yehuda are arguing about Rabbah and Rava. Okay, if that's the case, Lema the Rabbah Tanoi. So then let's say Rabbah and Rava's machlokes Tanoim. Gemara says, no, Rava Metanat's Lishna Kama. Rava is going to say he goes with the Lishna Kama, right? Meaning the previous Gemara, which holds that two Eidim that come from Medina Sayam don't have to say V'fanei Nechtam. Right. The Rabba Amar Lacha, the Kula Alma, Be'ina Lishma. Rabba is going to say that everybody holds you do need the Shma. What are we talking about here? Lacha Shalamdu. We're talking about once we had this teretz a bunch of times, like 10 blot ago. Yeah, it's after Klal Yisrael became after Klal Yisrael and Chutz La'aretz became educated. And the whole machlokes is whether we have to be concerned that even though they're educated now in Chutz La'aretz, maybe they're going to go back to being uneducated. The Marsa Gazrina, one holds, right? The Rabbanon who say that the get is possible, say we make the Gzeira. And the other one says he's not good. Okay, so we're asking, looks like Nam Reb Yehuda Bereisha. If that's the case, then why can't Reb Yehuda disagree in the Reisha too? Right? Meaning in the Reisha, it's talking about when two shluchim bring the get, and one said on the Fanei Nechtav, and one said of Fanei Nechtav. So we said everybody says that that's no good. But Reb Yehuda didn't disagree, right? But why can't he disagree? Right? Because if it's Eidim, if the whole thing is that you need Eidim to be Mekayim, so Eidim were Mekayim. So what it says, yes, we do. Ula says that even though the Mishnah doesn't say that Rabbi Yehuda disagrees, the Mishnah only says Rabbi Yehuda disagrees in the other case, but the Maisa, Ula says that that he does disagree. So Masa Ravashi Ula, so Ravashi has to kasha Ula, Rabbi Yehuda Mashah Bezu V'loi Ba'acheres. I'm sorry. Rabbi Yehuda Mashah Bezu V'loi Ba'acheres. Rabbi Yehuda is machshir in that second case, but not in any other case. But what does this mean? Lav l'ma'ute echad omer b'fanei nechtam ve'echad omer b'fanei nechtam. Right? We have this. Rav Aishia said that we know that Rabbi Yehuda was machshir in this case and not in another case. So must be the case that he's machshir was when there's two, right? 2 and 1. My love l'ma'ute echad omer b'fanei nechtam ve'echad omer b'fanei nechtam. So the one answers loy lemute b'fanei nechtam avaloi b'fanei nechtam. It's coming to exclude b'fanei nechtam, but not b'fanei nechtam. Salkadai dechamina, because I would have thought hoyo v'loy goes to Rabbi Yehuda gezeira, since Rabbi Yehuda didn't make a gezeira. That when you have two of them are shluchim, right? That you need to make. You have to say it. Shema yafsa double kukula, but. I'm sorry. No. I think I mixed up with the next one. However, like goes review the gezeira. Since Yehuda didn't make a gezeira, Shema Yafsa Davar. But maybe it's going to go back to being uneducated. Dilma Asi Lechlufe. So people are going to come to get mixed up. The Kiyim Shtaras Dalma with Kiyim Shtaras. The Eid Echad Nami. So Dilma Asi Lechluve the Kiyim Shtaras Dalma be'Eid Echad. I'm sorry. It maybe they're going to come to get mixed up with Kiyim Shtaras with one Eid, meaning they're going to think, oh, you can just confirm a shtar with one Eid. So Nami Lo Gaza. So Memela, he also didn't make a Gezerah on the get, Kamash Malan, that we said Yehuda does say the get is puzzle if there's only one shliach, because if you're going to be materit, then you're going to say that everybody is going to confuse it with regular status, right? This is, if you notice, I'm having a hard time. Even every time I look at this, I think maybe I got it and I don't have it, so I apologize if I'm not. It's a hard Gemara. Amud Aleph was much easier, even though it was tumah and Tahara, which is usually the harder part. Okay, so the Gemara says, Itmar Nami, Omer of Yehuda, Shnaim Shaviu, get from Medina Sayam, two people that bring a get from overseas, Banu la machlokes, Rav Yehuda v'Rabbanon. That is the machlokes, Rav Yehuda Rabbanon, like we said, right? That Rav Yehuda holds, meaning when one shliach says about b'fanei nechtam and one says b'fanei nechtam, right? So the Rabbanon say that gets puzzle, and Rav Yehuda says it's kosher, right? But in the case where two eidim bring it, then the Rabbanon are going to say it's gonna be okay. Let's just do this first Maisa because tomorrow's Friday. So Rabbi Bar Chana Cholash. Rabbi Bar Chana was weak. Allah Gabe Rabbi Yehuda v'Rabba l'Shulebe. So Rabbi Yehuda and Rabba went up to ask how he's doing. So they asked him a question. Shnayim Shaviu get Medina Sayam. Two people bring a get from Medina Sayam. Tzrichin Shiyam B'Fanenu Nechtam B'Fanenu Nechtam by Ein Tzrichin. Right? Do they need to say it or do they not need to say it? Now again, when we're saying that a shliach has to say B'Fanenu Nechtam, that's because he's one guy. And the Rabbanon wanted to be Mekel to be able to confirm this get, so she wouldn't be an aguna, because people are going back and people are not constantly traveling back and forth. So we want to make sure it's a confirmed get. That's if one does it, one brings it. But if it's two Eidim, why do they have to say right? Why do they have to say that if they're Eidim themselves and they're here? So if somebody decides to say that the husband comes and says the get's no good, what do you mean? We got two Eidim here. Right, so there's no reason for them to say it. But that's the shiloh. Should they say it anyways or not? Amalehem ain't tzrichin. They don't need it. They don't need to say why? Let's say two guys come. They weren't the shluchim. Just two eidim show up in Bezdin with a get, and they say, "Hey, this is a kosher get." Aren't we going to believe them?
She was divorced.
They can do that too, right? If two guys just show up, Naftali is right. If two guys show up to Bezdin and say, "Hey, we know that Yankel divorced Rachel," they're believed, right? So therefore, why? So that's what Rabbi Bar Chana answered them. Why would they need to say b'fanei nechtam? The reason again to say b'fanei nechtam is to have an easy way to confirm a get, right? But that's with one person. So that was a big kula of the Rabbanon. But when two people come, there's no reason to rely on the kula because these two guys are kosher eidim the way they are. So therefore, they're considered acceptable, right? Now I don't know why we're not worried that the two Eidim might run away or leave back. How come? What are you going to do if they go back overseas? Why is that never a concern with the two Eidim? That's too simple a question.
And what do you do with the one Eid if he leaves to B'Fanei?
What?
And if he leaves to
he has to say it, otherwise the get's not good. And he has to say it.
And then he said it, and then
he said it. That's it. He's done.
He's done. They don't.
Yeah, the get is okay.
No, once Bezdin has these two guys and they give the get to the woman, they can write a what's it called, a receipt or a handbook.
Correct, but I'm saying let's say
they don't need the two guys. They don't need to be Mekayim B'Shtar.
Because they said if there's going to be a problem, then these two guys will testify that the get is okay.
But that already does the job. So Mamela Bezdin can now
You're saying
write a
that's
hempik on the bottom of the
because
get.
Bezdin saw it from two people, so then
Right. So now they can write a hempik.
Yeah.
Means he can never
Right.
time on the get again.
I hear. Okay, we'll stop here. I hope it was quasi understandable. I'm sorry if it was, since I have a hard time with this Gemara, but yeah, tomorrow is pretty much a repeat of this. At least I'm at Aleph. Yeah. All right. A good nacht. Oh, maybe I can make Baruch for 2 nights in a row. Maybe.
Rothman.
What?
Rothman.
Amazing.
Before you laugh at the saltpeter, it's only very recently they found a safe way to mine potassium nitrate. Until then, all preserved meats use saltpeter. Until 30, 40 years ago.
Have a good night.
They use saltpeter to preserve meat?
Yeah, it's potassium nitrate. It's a nitrate.
Yes, please.
Okay.
It's just another form of it. It's a very dangerous form, or relatively dangerous form. So they don't use it anymore. But they have a safe way of producing potassium nitrate now. There were shilas written about it. They used to get saltpeter from bat guano.
All right. Zagesund.
Yeah, I get to not Shikaya.
Dogs chasing a
Talking
cat.
about bat guano. What is going on over there?
Sorry about that. I forgot I wasn't muted.
Okay.
Wait, where Zev's already off?